Hello, and welcome back to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show that dives into all things TTRPG. We got a really fun and industry-focused show ahead of you. I think I've been doing some research, I've been doing some thinking, and I got some ideas about where the industry is going that I'd like to dive into. But before we do, my partner in all things TTRPG, the guy I'll be talking to, as always, Zach. Zachariah, how are you doing?
Hello. Yes, holidays were a little bit. Thanksgiving was a little bit hard to figure out how to get us together, but yeah, we're back. I'm excited to be talking about tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah, and yeah, for everybody, I think this has been a thing every year. November, December, hardest months of the year. If you're an adult out there, I'm sure you feel that crunch.
Right now, I'm doing a ton of editing because every year for the video game part of my channel, we pre-record three or four podcasts just so that we don't have to worry about doing it through December.
That's you know what? That's maybe we need to remember this for next year.
Telling you, man, I'm telling you, especially if you're not doing anything like specifically topical. So every end of the year we do a horrible game award show where we give out our horrible game awards, which is based on community votes. Then we do a prediction show where myself, Neil, and Philbilly comes on and we all predict what's going to happen in the gaming industry. And then we first go over it, and we have this really weird scoring system of who wins the year prior, and then we make predictions for the next one, and then we do a year in review show, and then sometimes we do Horrible Arena, which is we come up with topics and pitch games based on the topics.
Okay. That's a clever. You know what? We're brainstorming right here on the show.
You guys get to see our process, yeah.
For next year's potential show ideas and get ourselves lined up.
We should really think about doing a Horrible Arena for Sanctorum at some point because it's one of my most favorite things to do. It's like you pitch game ideas and then try to figure out who wins based on people writing in and saying what they'd play.
I love that idea, and I think that would work real. There's so many different publishers and people out there doing all kinds of games in the RPG space that it'd be so much out there we can tackle with that. This is a huge space.
Yeah.
Which actually, kind of segues a little bit into both the news, but also the topic, which is the plethora of indie games out there. Which actually, before we jump into the main topic of today's show, what do you say we jump into the news right quick and
let's do it.
Get that knocked out? All right, so a couple of things just briefly towards the end of the fall and winter season. Kickstarter has really been ramping up and signaling indie strength across the board in the TTRPG space. It's always been a big thing for the indie TTRPG creators, those guys that are making their own books and putting them out there on drive-thru, on itch, on whatever. But it looks like this year, they are Kickstarter starting to talk about how much it's ramped up, and that I think is kind of saying something. If they're making these kind of statements out there to the public, I think that really is signaling to the community at large.
Kickstarter's a tricky thing. I've talked about it a lot. I think just like anything that is really helpful, it can be really hurtful sometimes too. But overall, it is a good place if you have a good proof of concept prototype to try and make some money. So that you can compete with just gargantuan corporations, which, in fairness, the gargantuan corporations, their systems tend to be a little bit overbloated and silly sometimes too. So we're going to talk about that later, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah. for sure, actually. And I got some gargantuan big box news also in here today. Also,
Okay.
we got a lot of industry focused stuff today. Before I get to that, though, the other topic of the news that I thought was kind of interesting was Paizo expands its Orc initiative. Orc is the licensing agreement they do for their TTRPG
Right.
books. They're expanding it to provide more alternatives for legacy games. So if it's published under the Pezos banner or title, they're expanding Orc somewhat to include games that maybe have been published back in the mid early 2000 kind of area when Pezos was fresh and new. They're basically citing this as like a stabilizing like force. This is how they're pitching it to the TTRPG community, which I think is kind of fair. This is what their goal is: a stabilizing force outside of Wizards of the Coast. So Wizards of the Coast have their weirdness that they've had, and a sort of a cloud over their head for a minute now regarding their open license agreement. Pezos wants to really create a bigger space for indie creators to sell their own stuff under their IP, because we don't know what Wizards is ever going to do. So, and we can't trust them. So.
It's yeah, it's an interesting space. TTRPGs, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting industries economically, if you really look at it that way, because of the way it exists in such a like kind of almost like free pass around sort of existence.
Yeah.
Like I've said it on the show before. I think that's one of the problems that Hasbro had with when they bought Wizards in the first place. They were just expecting, well, we sell product, we make money, and that's just not the way an RPG kind of works.
Right.
I mean, yes, sell product, make money, but you can't just like, it's not necessarily about like, it's much more about engagement than it is about like just brick and mortar copies sold, you know? And I think that that's the trick, is it's very hard to get into this industry unless you're already in it, you know? The open license agreement is cool. It's really cool. I've always liked open license agreement. I would never sue. I don't know that I've ever listed an open license agreement, but I would never sue anybody who does anything on any of my systems, you know? So like it's just one of those things where that kind of stuff is good for games, because when the more options you have, the more reason people have to get the original, you know?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I've always thought and felt that, like you were saying, you know, this is like almost a Zine focused, or zine, or however you want to pronounce it, focused hobby. It's about what you do yourself more than anything else. I've always thought that providing the books is great, but if you really wanted to expand your what you're selling, your product, expand it into the realm of, you know, auxiliary products.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was the original owners of Dungeons and Dragons, TSR, had a great idea when they started selling novels based off of their product.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's so much content out there. You could totally sell novels, comic books, movies,
Video
TV
games.
shows, video games.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Exactly. That's the way to go.
Yes,
Not restricting or trying to double down on the original game.
It's very interesting because you can't actually trademark an RPG system. It's not something you can legally do, because literally it's just like a way to count numbers. You can't really like
you can't count
you really can't do that. That was something that I did some research in when I started my own company, and it was something that I was like, can I trademark this? Can I copyright this? How do I make money off this? Something I realized really early on is I don't think you can go into this with the idea of making money. I think the idea is, because your system is the core of it. You know what I mean? So like
Right.
you want to find some way for people to come back to you, to come back to your core system, and then for it to spiderweb off into different things and different modes, and to let other people then take that and then do something with it. You know, so it's tricky because like when Joe Schmo over there, writes a game that's basically my game, that's still people are like, okay, but let's go play that game too. You know what I mean? Like if they like
Yeah.
it. It's a very tricky industry in that way too, because if it's almost like if people don't know what your product is, they don't want to buy it, but they have to know what the like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like you could release a trailer of something and
Right.
have somebody get excited for it. Like they have to know what the system is and whether they like to play in that system before they're even really willing to spend money on that system. And that's the tricky part, you know.
It is. It is. And, that actually kind of actually segments a little bit into the next news segment, which is
Let's do it.
almost an attempt at a counter argument to what we are saying right now.
Okay.
Um,
Let's hear it.
because WotC has been trying to do the exact opposite of what we are saying. They are announcing that in 2026 they are going to double down on the digital release and products of their content. They're talking about releasing more D&D digital products, books, digital books, as well as tools that DMs, GMs can use. I guess it would be DMs since it's WotC, in their gameplay. And we're talking about VTTs, which they have been sort of talking about forever and have not been particularly impressive. A lot of people have been kind of disappointed with their VTT.
What is a
AI
VTT?
assist, virtual tabletop.
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
digital
I wasn't up on the
platform of
lingo
moving
on
your
that one.
miniatures around.
Gotcha.
They really tried to make it a video game-esque virtual tabletop. I get the idea. I get the notion. It sounds really cool. I think in practice, it doesn't typically work out super well because I use, personally, my experience, and that what works well for me is Owlbear Rodeo. There's also Roll20, the top-down basic tabletop that's very, very basic and customizable.
Mm-hmm.
It's adjustable for not just the GM, but also for the players. They can add their own tokens, their own characters. They can draw their own figures. Can't do that on a video game-esque. You have skins that you have to purchase. And I don't think this is the ecosystem for it. But Wizards of the Coast disagrees strongly. They're dumping money into this. They're also using AI to support this. And I guess they're a little sketchy about some of the details, but they're talking about focusing on encounter building and rules lookup for the AI stuff.
Okay.
Interesting, but
Okay. So we've talked about the AI stuff on here before. I think that like it's one thing to talk about like AI that's like stealing artwork from people, stuff like that, but it's another thing entirely for AI to just be putting together like scenarios and looking up roles for you and stuff. I think that's totally okay. I mean, I don't want to get a ton of hate for it or anything, but like the only thing I'll say is I can't count the number of times AI is wrong when I have it look up stuff. So I don't want to have it look up a rule and that rule will be wrong. That being said, I think that VTTs are tricky in my opinion, because I think RPGers are a very they are a breed that likes things the way they like it. And if you can't let them make it the way they want it to be, then they're not going to use that. They're going to use something that will allow them to make it where you want it to be. Like if your VTT is very specific, like the one you described, or even like Fablecraft that we were talking about a few weeks ago, it's good for people who really like that. But if somebody wants to do something else with your system, they can't, and then it means that you lose that versatility. And I think that versatility is something that game masters really thrive on, you know.
Exactly. It's becoming less of a tabletop role-playing game, even a virtual tabletop role-playing game, and more of a video game.
Yeah.
We have video games. Video games are great, but if you don't want to play a video game right now, you want to play a TTRPG, a tabletop game with homebrew and characters and NPCs that you've created, that your characters are interacting with, that your players are interacting with. That this isn't the way to go.
Right.
It just that's not the space that they're building for those players.
I will say if they make it so that the AI can game master a group of players, that will be interesting because I want to see that. I want to participate in that at least once, like in my life.
Yeah, I do too. I feel okay. So, random tangent here.
Okay, bring it on.
I've started using AI quite a bit. I use it actually on my day job quite a bit. It's very helpful when it comes to technical problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When it comes to equipment, software, coding, everything.
Yep. Yeah.
So my day job, I'm always using it to help me look up schematics. And I know other people that have too. Games, I think there's definitely potential. It has the power to do it. I don't see why it couldn't do it, especially if you created an AI that was focused on accomplishing that task. These things are pretty powerful. I know a lot of people that are mean to AI. They're just mean. They swear at it. They push its buttons. I knew one guy that got Gemini to stop talking to it because he was so mean to it. I can't do that, man. I don't want to be at a table where people are mean to, like, I don't care if it's a computer or not. That's just some negativity out there. And random tangent here. When I think about playing as a game master, all of the arguments that players have with me at times, rule lawyering, and now it's an AI where it's not even a human being and they feel like they can do whatever they want to it. That gives me the cringes.
That would be icky. There's a video game that I play. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it, but I play it called Where Winds Meet. It's based on Chinese folklore, and it's a free-to-play, like, MMO sort of thing. Cool. Here's the thing about it. This is the first game ever that has this, but all the NPCs that are not directly related to the story are AI chatbots. Like all of them. So you can enter a chat. It's a chat head, and then you can just talk to them. You can just talk to them because they're a chatbot that has been set up. What's interesting, really interesting about this is the quests that they give you. There are players out there who have just figured out ways to just convince them to let them complete the quest. So, like, they will just talk to them and just be like, well, why don't you just give me the money anyway? like stuff like that, until they figure out a way to get the chatbot to be like, oh, yeah, we're good. And then they just get the experience and the reward without doing anything. It's real interesting. It's real interesting, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this. I did a review on it, and I spent 40 minutes talking to this random character who rhymes, and it was an enjoyable interaction in my video game. I was like, okay. What's really weird, though, is every once in a while the AI will make references to things that did not exist in 8th century China. So it'll be like what did it... the one guy was calling me... all these people here like to call me Gil Bates because I'm always fishing. I'm like, that's a Bill Gates reference. Bill Gates didn't exist in 8th century China. What are we doing here, guys?
Yeah. Where did they get the documentation together to build that AI?
Right. All right. Sorry, that was a tangent of my own as well.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, that's I think that actually, like, that concludes the news segment, but I think that is going to be something that we're going to be talking about, honestly, a lot in the future. I just, AI is here to stay. It's only getting better and better and better. And honestly, I mean, it's probably the primary topic of today is not AI centric, but it's probably going to come up just because of how relevant it seems to be. Sure. In all things. And this is a game system. These are all game systems where we talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And AI is a computer that talks like a person. So we'll see. It tries to, yeah. Yeah, and it really kind of it gets it pretty good.
Say it sometimes.
Good.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes. All right. Well, let's. Do you want to just get into the topic then?
Yeah, why don't we jump into the
All right.
primary topic of the day, and that is um, industry reports have been suggesting that the TTRPG hobby has been moving towards indie markets more than and away from big box brands like D&D, even
Daggerheart.
the Dagger Hearts, exactly the ones that have the big names, that have the big money, and they're sort of sliding more towards um, the upstarts, the young, the guys in the basement, and that kind of thing. Now, before we get too far into this, I've actually been reading a lot of these, and there's one sort of news disclaimer caveat that I really want to throw out there, and it's going to be really tricky to express without sounding like I'm trying to throw people under the bus, because I'm not. I've seen this discussed in multiple different ways and with multiple different. I don't want to say spins, because that kind of sounds like I'm making them out to be, these writers to be manipulative. I don't believe that's the case. But when they say indie, they are to a certain degree talking about the little guys like you and I. But they're also talking, and probably more so, and the numbers are really leaning more towards the people who have like a small team of people together, who have financing getting together, who are really working and pushing the Kickstarter side of things. This isn't as much the guys that are just like, I got this great idea for a game, I'm going to put it together, I'm going to spend my life's blood into this thing. Now,
They're
it's not saying that
companies
those
too,
guys
is what
don't
you're saying.
exist.
They're
What's that?
companies. They're companies too, is what you're saying.
They are companies. They're just small companies.
Yeah.
They're small
And
companies.
they're
And it might be
riding
a
the
company
narrative.
of like 5 guys, you know?
Yeah, it's funny how many things echo video games when we start talking about them. But they like to ride that line, like, hey, we're your friends, we're the indie guys, and then you kind of realize, yeah, okay, but you've got like 50 people and you work in a. You know what I mean? You're not the indie guy.
Yeah.
You're not the indie guy. You're not the guys that we got to fish through 20 pages of itch to find, who's only sold like 3 copies, this guy. Like, I completely understand what you're saying there. I think that, like, I don't necessarily begrudge them for that, because
Right.
in my opinion, I still prefer those guys to people like Wizards of the Coast and White Wolf. It's interesting, right? Because I think so. Like, you and I became friends. What I would say, like 2 years now at this point.
I think more, even like
More. Is it at 3? I've only been doing this channel for like 7, so
okay.
So it's got to be in there. But we've been friends for a while.
Yeah.
I was mostly a lapsed TTRPG player when we started communicating again. I know that is hard to believe, since half my channel is TTRPG stuff now. And I have a wall of TTRPG stuff that I played. It's just I had kind of lapsed out of it for a while. So getting back into it with you, I have gone down the rabbit hole again, so to speak. And it's a whole new rabbit hole with places like Itch, Drive Through Games, YouTube, just reviewing games and teaching you how to play them, all sorts of stuff like that. One thing I am realizing, the big companies, the really big companies, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They tend to be so wrapped up in the numbers that they have decided to put down that they lose track of what they're trying to do in the first place. So, and my example of this is Daggerheart. I have been
Mm,
very interested in Daggerheart. We've been talking about Daggerheart for quite a while. I had originally heard that it was a kind of like a narrative alternative to Dungeons and Dragons. So I started watching some videos, some like quick how-to videos on how to play Daggerheart and how to do a fight. What the fuck is narrative about that game? It seems super complicated. There's tons of dice. There's tons of stuff. I don't know what the hell is narrative about that game. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. I'm sure it's
right.
simpler than D&D, but like I certainly didn't notice super fast combat or really quick play. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
definitely noticed a lot of the same and a lot of this would be hard to onboard. And the whole point of Daggerheart is that it's not hard to onboard on. As the whole idea is that it's supposed to be this like alternative to D&D where you don't have to figure out the super complicated rules. You pick it up and it makes sense and it's intuitive. And I don't know, I've noticed that a lot lately with games like D&D, Daggerheart, White Wolf. They just seem very out of touch with their fan base and the things they're trying to do. Whereas you have these fans or these smaller studios that are much more like they look around, they go, what do we want to play?
Right.
And if I'm searching that out, that's what I'm going for, you know. We also, how long has it been since the surge that happened thanks to Critical Role, where like D&D became like mainstay? We're talking like 10, 15 years at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, probably not
it
15, but
picked
a
up.
lot.
It picked up in like, so 5e started in, I want to say, and somebody's gonna read me if I get this wrong, but I want to say 2014 is 5th edition. I think Critical Role came out just like and started building and building just a little bit after that. I want to say around 2016 ish.
So
Um,
so 2017,
and
so we're
then
probably
it
looking at
popped off like
roughly
crazy.
so 8 to
Yeah,
10 years. Okay, in that amount of time, so like it pops off, it attracts a whole bunch of people. Those people are watching Critical Role. They're like, I want to play D&D. They go out and buy D&D. They start playing D&D. You have a bunch of them that were like, this isn't really for me. I'll just keep watching and drop off. But you have a lot of them that stay on. Those people start to get smarter. Think about what you were when you were a kid, when you played the first game that you ever played. You played the first game you ever played until you realized there was something better out there. And then you went and you
right.
found the game that was good for you. We're now in that. We're in that section where like all of these people, they just discovered it 10 years ago. Now they're realizing, oh man, there's stuff out there that is way better than Dungeons and Dragons. That maybe is better for me for this or better for me for this. And then they go there, you know. I
Yeah.
think that there's something to be said for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is, and and in some ways that's you know D&D has always had a high bar for entry compared to a lot of other RPGs. But in some ways, that's a good thing. For the fact that if you do enter it and you put that work in, it is so much easier to learn other games. And once you do, you're just exposed to it now, and now you can pick up these other games, and that's good for the community at large. It's good for individuals. It's good for people that like end up, if you're really into narrative games, you have a certain personality type. You have a certain interest outside of just RPGs that are probably in line with more narrative-based stuff. And you're meeting people who are also into narrative-based games, who are also interested in similar ideas and things and projects and fun things that you are into. Like you and I met because of RPGs, but we're friends now. Like
Yes,
it's
without a doubt.
it's not just because we do this show together.
Mm-hmm.
We just
We
are
talk
like
on the reg.
buddies,
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of a good thing about like these types of like
Yes.
games, even the hard ones that are getting into it. It opens this gate for people.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things, like if you're insular, one of the things that is very hard for you is that first line of communication with other people, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the trick. But like D&D and stuff like that gives you the first line right off the bat. Like, oh, I don't know what to talk to this person about, and I'm very anxious about it. But what character do you play? What kind of game do you play in?
Yeah.
And then from there you slowly move it back. And I've always, when I was a kid, and I got into this, and obviously, you know, I'm 44, so I lived in the time when this was not acceptable. But like when I was a kid, it was always the thing that like kids who didn't make friends did because of that. Like it has a
Right.
natural in. You don't have to figure out how to do this other thing or do this other. It's just like I just have to know this system and I can talk to somebody else about it. I don't even necessarily have to know that. I can know my own system and we can talk about each other's systems, you know, like it doesn't that was like the starter point, you know. The opener, the icebreaker. And I think that like yeah, I think that's continued, but you have so many more people playing RPGs now, watching people play RPGs. You have people who wouldn't necessarily normally play RPGs see the success of live plays, go out and get a game just to do a podcast about it. Like that's something that happens without a doubt with booms like this. So those people are now coming to a point where they're like, that thing that brought us in the first place might not be the thing that I want to do forever. Or maybe they're just looking for a new fix. Maybe they're looking for something new. You know what I mean? Like, you don't always have to play that same game. And I think that that's one of the things that trends. I think we're also in a digital era where if you want to know something about something, you could just go on YouTube, ask it, and it will show you 1,000 videos about that thing, or the AI, right? Or the AI we just talked about. So, like, I think that if you're a role playing game player right now, and you're like, I want to play, you can go online and be like, I want to play a Dead West game with quick combat mechanics that's more on the narrative side. That like you could get incredibly specific, and the internet's gonna go blah this because thanks to itch and drive through that everybody's publishing games. Everybody, like you write down hell, there is a game jam on itch for a single page RPG. Happens once a year, single page RPG. Do you know how many they've turned out? That's single page RPG after single page RPG. You will find the system that you're looking for if you do that. And I think now that people realize they can do that, that's what's happening. They're going to migrate away from large, oversaturated, overstuffed big box games like D&D, Daggerheart, you know, White Wolf, all of those. They're going to go to simpler, quicker, easier experiences 9 times out of 10.
I will also say this a little bit about this point. I think that we have kind of seen a very similar pattern in the past. TSR kind of collapsed in the 90s. Not kind of, it did. It collapsed in the 90s.
Ceased to exist.
Early 2000s, we started seeing TTRPG and Wizards of the Coast produce third edition. And after they purchased the IP and all of this stuff, and around that area, around like the late to mid 2000s, we started seeing other production companies like Pezos pop up. And Drive-Thru RPG, I believe, has been around since 2001.
They've been around for a while, yeah.
But if you look at how much they grew at a certain pattern at a certain point in time. You can look back at the early 2000s and see a development arc, and I think we're seeing a very similar development arc today. You know, the 2000s also was when the internet became a household thing. Today, the internet's been a household thing for 25 years. But we're also seeing more availability for VTTs, cameras, you know, being able to go on Discord, VTTs, virtual tabletops being something that everybody can link to on their own computer and connect to. And then we did have the pandemic, and that everybody was all of a sudden home and it popped off again. I think that we're seeing a pattern that's already been established, and it's going to continue to shine in this same manner. Now, the trick is, where is it going to go next? Fourth edition Dungeons and Dragons, the flagship of the brand of the RPG, kind of failed, and then you had fifth edition come out. Dungeons and Dragons looks like it's probably going to fail again. I mean, they're losing people. Daggerheart is a dagger to the heart of Wizards of the Coast. They are hitting it, and now we're moving towards indie stuff. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work. Are we going to get another Pesos, but from the indie community, a new one?
It's tricky, right? Because I don't know. Dungeons and Dragons is still like it's the verb. You know what I mean? It's like people who aren't role playing game players will look at you and go, "Oh, you play Dungeons and Dragons?" They won't say, "Oh, you play RPGs." They'll say, "Oh, you play Dungeons and Dragons." "Oh, you play D&D?" Like, it's the verb. So how do you kill that? I think one way to do that is to be a giant company that doesn't understand what being the verb is, and just wants to make billions of dollars on it, and monetizes everything, and doesn't realize that the fan base for that does not love a ton of monetization.
Right.
I think that I don't know. It's tricky. I think that we will continue to go towards indie. I think the whole point of being indie, though, is to be your own thing. So I think when I was younger, I wanted to be an RPG designer. Like younger, back in the days where RPGs weren't that big. So I actually started, at early days of the internet, I started to email RPG creators who left their email anywhere in their books. I emailed them because I didn't know how to do this. Where do you go to college for this?
Right.
No one responded to me except one guy, and I don't remember his name, but he was on the team for DreamPod 9, which made heavy gear. I remember that very specifically.
This is a new story. You never told me this before.
I've never told you this?
No.
He wrote me back, and it was one of the most depressing emails I've ever received in my life. And honestly, I would say it sent my life on a trajectory, the trajectory that it was on, because I truly just didn't know what I wanted to do after that, period. And his emails specifically said, because I was like, I have these games, I want to design these games, how do I do that? And he had sent me this email, and I had never realized it before, which was stupid because I had read so many of them you would think I would. But he sent me this email, and he was like, actually, you don't create a system. You never create a system. You end up getting employed by, if you can get in, you'll get contracted to write a supplement for a different game. And then what you'll do is you'll bounce around from game to game writing supplements for those games, until maybe years in, you'll be handed an actual project. But because companies universalize their systems, you'll have to use whatever system was already in place. I appreciated his honesty. I think I actually cried that night because I was like, I can't do that. That's not who I am. I cannot go to college to do whatever I need to do to become that. I couldn't do that. That would take the thing that I love and make it into this heart-wrenching coal miner sort of situation. I'd hate it by the time I was done with it. It's the same thing with why our video game channel never really became popular, because to become popular, you have to work the algorithm, and to work the algorithm, we have to do content about one video game every day, period. Game. If we did that, but then we'd hate it. We'd hate doing it, and I don't want to do that. So that was one of the most heart-wrenching things. I appreciated his honesty, but now that I am older, and I'm 44, and I have unsuccessfully published a game or two, and I have seen other people publishing their games, I can definitively say you don't have to do that anymore. And but the big game companies still don't know that. Like
Right.
they're still working on the same system, trying to make everything they want to do fit that same mold. And it's infuriating. Like you look at that mindset. I look at that mindset from the big box games that existed in like I think this was like 96 that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same mindset for them has not evolved in any way, shape, or form. It is the exact same thing. We have a system. Now we make all games on that system. We make all things for that system. The only thing they maybe expanded to is making digital a thing and the open license kind of like using that to their advantage. But it's the same basic idea if you look at it. Whereas you have the indie guys who are like going out there and doing whatever they want, whatever they feel like, and publishing it and throwing it out there. I don't think those guys become another publishing company. You know what I mean? I think those guys keep doing what they're doing because that's what they want to do and hoping they make it big. You were talking about the indie guys riding the coattails. I would be more nervous of those guys getting together and doing something together. Because if they did, then all of a sudden you're in the same situation again because they'll all start universalizing it, and then when everything looks the same, it's not fun anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely do. It's such a fine balancing act because, like, you're really into the video game side of things. I really like various publications of novels and movies. And if you look at indie movies, there was a heyday at one point in the mid 2000s that kind of followed the exact same arc of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Very few indie movie house producers were just nobodies, you still had to have a lot of money to make a movie, and you had to get a lot of executive producers and a lot of financing. Every once in a blue moon, you have a shining star come through, and it's a beautiful indie movie that launches a brand new. I think what was it? A20 started this way, and there's a few other. Blumhouse, I think, may have started this way.
I think so.
One movie just pops off, freaking amazing, and then it slowly starts to develop into this very corporate world
thing. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's like a balancing act. How do you maintain the indiness? How do you maintain the freshness, the new ideas, innovation, while still trying to expand a business and focus on the monetary side?
I mean,
no one's figured it out. As far as I can tell, no one's figured it out.
That's because it's life. I think that people are always like, oh, they're always looking for things to get better, and things are going to get better, then they're going to get worse, then they're going to get better, then they're going to get worse. It's just a constant circle and a wave. And I think it's the same thing. Video gaming was really, really good about 6-7 years ago. Now it's in a decline. It'll crash again. And then slowly it'll start to come back. But at the same time, you can see it happen. You watch the AA developers will become the AAA developers because they're more popular. But then they'll actually become the AAA developers, meaning they'll do the same stupid shit that they did. And then there'll be a whole nother group of AA developers to take their spot behind. And right. I think that TTRPGs is the same way. I will say, what's really unique about TTRPGs is I don't think in the entire history of it as an industry, it's seen the popularity that it's seen in the last 10 years, which is kind of cool. We've never seen that before. This is the peak, and we've never seen the peak, so we don't know where we go from the peak. But we're gonna go to a point, and it's gonna drop off, and some stupid shit's gonna happen, and then slowly it'll come back. I mean, I think that's just the way of things.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, this is a little off topic, but I think we organically kind of got here. So the industry of itself, producing these games, these people coming out and doing this is, like you said, this wave. And we are in a new era where things, first off, with the amount of technology and the avenues that technology is providing for us, I mean, realistically, I don't know how you could predict where it's going to be in 10 years. But there's a side thing that I think is really relevant to this whole industry that isn't being discussed directly, and it very rarely is. And that is not publishers, not the games themselves, but any supplemental company, product, industry that is not directly selling or making games. So, for instance, we have Drive-Thru RPG, we have Pezos, we have the little game stores on the corner, that's selling these games. Comic book shops, stuff like that, hobbyists. I think that I hope this isn't really me thinking. This is me hoping and not really knowing. But I think and hope that those smaller groups, not Drive-Thru, they're freaking huge, but those auxiliary industries start to create an ecosystem of themselves that support TTRPG because it is so popular. They can now support these sort of branching industries that aren't directly selling RPGs, but help the ecosystem overall.
It is a wonderful thought, my friend. I'm gonna say something. It sounds like I'm very depressed and cynical. I don't mean it to sound that way. I tend to see things the way I see things, and I've just gotten used to it. So I could be happy with the way things are. But we live in a capitalist society, and I think you get to a point where I think there's like a weird number that once you start making that amount of money, you go crazy. Like it all becomes about making that amount of money or you failed. I think one of the interesting things about the independent companies, I think Drive-Thru is already there, but I think that like one of the things about these independent places and stuff is they're not making that money yet. Maybe they're making enough to survive, which is great, but like they're not making that like on that number, whatever that number is. And I just always get scared that when you have that kind of unification and push towards that, you end up with people like, okay, there's always a guy in a room somewhere who's like, okay, yeah, but how do we make more money off that? Like, and that's, I think that's the problem, because that's just the society we live in. Like, I think there's always going to be that guy, and everybody's always going to have to appease that guy. And that's a bummer. But like, that is kind of the way it goes, And I think that like TTRPGs, we've already had plenty of that, guys. We've got Hasbro, doing it with them. I don't know who's driving the force between Daggerheart and whether they've gotten to that level or not, but, the big box companies tend to be that way. So, like, it's one of those things where, like, if everybody unifies and starts doing this supportive thing, when does it then become that, how do we make more money off this sort of situation? Feed the beast almost.
That's really fair. This is going to be like another random tangent, but like I've seen this popped up a couple of times just on Twitter, so it's very much anecdotal. One industry I have always dreamt that I thought I would love to have is sort of a game tavern. So a place where people come. There's maybe a little like gift shop kind of area where you can buy games, but the real focus is giving a space for people to hang out. You sell them food, you sell them drinks. They can buy games there. They don't have to. That's not going to be your bread and butter. Your bread and butter is probably just the food and drinks and the ambiance. It's a fun place to hang out, so people are going to buy food and just enjoy themselves. I've seen a lot of people talk about that. Every now and then it pops up. People are loving it. When does that become Disneyland?
Right,
and when does Disneyland become
the
new what Disneyland is today, what Disney is today? When Walt Disney started his company, it was an indie thing. Nobody had ever done animation the way that he did. Then he made the first real theme park, Disneyland. And now, what is Disney? Do we even know?
Right.
You know,
You can't build an empire without burying bodies, and that's the problem. Is like I don't want to bury
that needs to be
bodies,
on a shirt.
and
That needs to be on a shirt.
we can make it. It's fine. I don't want to build. I don't want to bury bodies. So I guess I don't
Right.
want to build an empire. You know what I mean? Like, I think that whenever somebody sets out to do something like that, what you've got to give is always going to be more than what you get in the soul. You know what I mean? Like when somebody sets out like we're gonna unify this, and okay, all right, but think about what that has to entail and who has to go down for that and how they have to go down for that and how many freedoms have to be given up for that. You think
Yeah.
about the guy who unified China. He killed hundreds of thousands of people because he was like, we've got to unify China, because if we don't unify China, we'll just keep fighting over who's in charge of China. Think about how many people he killed, though. Like, it's one of those things, like, you're either that guy who's willing to do that, or you're not. I ain't. I never will be. And, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to purchase stuff from that guy. So, like, it's tricky. It's real tricky. Because, like,
How much of a sociopath can he be?
right. And it's not even just the sociopath. It's just like what you have to do in the situation and the systems that we have in place, just on a whole, like, to get to that level, you're going to end up looking like them.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like, okay, if you want that, that's cool, but you're going to end up looking like Wizards of the Coast. I don't want to look like Wizards of the Coast. Like, and that's the problem. I mean, right now, we're already talking about how Daggerheart falls into the big box category, which is compared right there with Hasbro. So what have you done to already get there? Like, I think that it's tricky. It's tricky. Because once you get there, you're going to look like them, and I don't want to look like them.
Yeah.
I don't want the indie games to look like them. I want the indie games to just make indie games,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I don't know. Maybe there's some secret code out there, and one day somebody will crack it. Maybe somebody already has cracked it and we haven't seen it. Maybe it's in an industry that you and I just aren't in. Maybe there's an indie something out there that you and I haven't really been involved in. It might be music, probably not because Spotify, but it might be, who knows, something that there's an indie market that is thriving, that is strong. Yeah, there are some big boxes, but they can't compete with the indie guys because the indie is where it's at.
I mean, I think RPGs is the best example of that right now, honestly. Like, I mean, D&D is hated. Yeah, like, it has a hard time surviving. It's despised by anybody who plays RPGs for longer than, like, a cup of coffee. You've got your big box people, but they're not the biggest box people. And if you're into it, that's fine. But they're not making money hand over fist like crazy people, and then you've got a ton of independent stuff that just turns out stuff for anything that you can think of. Subject, story, type of play, type of mechanic. It's one of my favorite things about this industry right now. And I hope I am long dead by the time it changes.
Fair. I'm right there with you. Like, I don't want to, I mean, I don't know. That's one thing about this hobby, though. It might be kind of bulletproof. I mean, it's just the nature of the hobby. The hobby is about creating a world in your imagination.
Yep.
It's about your inner space and joining that with your friends.
Yeah.
And that might make it bulletproof. That might be the I guess the guardrails that prevent it from ever truly being Disneyland. We're never going to get a true Wizards of the Coast Disneyland, truly, because it is really it's so
immune
internal,
to FOMO.
it's so personal. What's that?
It's immune to FOMO.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you want to play the game, sure, but you don't feel like you're going to miss out on the game. You get it whenever, and the story itself is your own story that you're going to tell. It's not going to be spoiled for you on the internet.
Right.
You don't have to run over there to see it before somebody else does. It's immune to that. There's no rush there. It's just like
Yeah.
there's a cool new thing there. You can go interact with it or not.
And the more you try to like push it into a very hard profit focused box that goes through the grinding of a system,
Yeah.
pull this lever, get this product out, like movies have done, like books have done. You can't.
It fails.
The more you're just cutting your own throat.
Yep.
Like you cannot make this industry into that because this industry doesn't sell that.
It doesn't.
It sells an idea.
Yeah.
It says, "Hey, look at my idea."
We could be super whimsy with it and be like, "It sells dreams." It really does. That's what it is. It sells make believe. It sells your own make believe. Whee! I'm an elf.
It does. It really does.
It does.
That should be the title of this episode. Indie sells dreams. The indie space sells dreams.
I think TTRPGs on a whole just sell dreams.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we keep coming back to it, and it gives you a place to make friends.
Yes.
This has become My Little Pony somehow. I don't know. It's about friendship and dreams. Well, Zach, I think we kind of covered it. I mean, like really, like there's a few other like notes, but really, I think we kind of covered. It's still about the indie. The TTRPG is moving back towards indie, and I think it's because the big games have moved away from indie. And it's not really so much that it's moving back towards indie. It's more like the big names, the big IPs are moving away from it, and the fan base is staying where it's always been.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. I think you couple that with the casuals are starting to get less casual, and yeah.
I think that's exactly where it's at.
Was
there any final thoughts you have on the?
I don't have any more final thoughts. I know you had a hard out, so we should probably wrap it up.
I'm feeling pretty solid here. I love this hobby, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going. I think that there's some exciting times ahead. Maybe you and I are going to be there. We're going to be watching it. This is an exciting time to be in this hobby, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Before we step out of it, Zach, you got anything to plug?
Well, everything I said at the beginning of the show, our big video game show that ever shows are coming out all this month. Horrible Game Awards will be out, I think, just before this, because this is Friday. Okay. Yeah, it comes out it's either the 10th or the 9th, somewhere in there. But it'll have been out if you're watching this already, so go watch that, and then we do our normal prediction stuff for video games. As far as RPGs going, we have scheduled on the books some recording times for Ordo, hunt number, I guess, 4? Because it was 2.5 was what we did in between.
That's true.
So either 3 or 4, hunt 3, I guess would be the best way to say it. We've got that scheduled for.
And I get to play.
I know.
I get to play Ordo. I'm super excited.
Can't wait to murder you in the first session. And then also we have on the books some Dual Bastards season 2. Don't worry, guys. There's more of that insanity coming.
Looking forward to that one quite a bit too. I actually bought myself some, and I'm waiting to debut it. Some pirate gear.
Yes.
I'll be wearing for our return to that particular show.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can actually start. I'm taking one more pass to try to do magic, or the cosmic stuff that I wanted to do, and then either way, I'm going to be able to actually start writing the game as a draft, start to finish. So I think all the rules are down.
All right. Yeah, and for me, as always, this episode will be on thewizardsrespite.com. Please check out thewizardsrespite.com. All of these episodes will be there. I have articles on there regarding the industry and everything TTRPG. I also have shirts that are TTRPG themed. So please go check that out. Until next time, until next show, keep rolling them dice.